Okay, I think it's as loud as it will go. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Awesome. So how would you like to do it today? Do you want to provide any updates or anything about the committee hearing and then
Yes.
questions and answers?
Very much would like to do that. And
Okay.
We are also waiting for Representative Hansen. The House has been working on the floor this morning, and so he's running just a little bit late.
Okay, great.
And I expect him anytime, so we might have to pause and let him get hooked up and ready to participate. Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi. Well, the bills had a hearing just last week, and I'm not sure if you've had much of an opportunity to hear about it, but it was really interesting. It was clear that the divide between who would like to see the bill pass and those who do not want to see it is really clear. So can you guess who would be opposed to this kind of legislation?
So there are a few people who said Republicans. Are you talking about like companies that might be opposed?
Anybody out, who might have an interest in what happens with the net?
Which companies don't want this bill to become a law? Huh?
All businesses.
I heard some people saying, like, I think I heard Comcast out there.
Comcast, very good. Yeah. Definitely signed against the bill. Yep. Anybody else? Cellular phone companies are not interested in this bill. So, would you excuse me for just 1 second? It's Representative Hansen. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense why Comcast and CenturyLink wouldn't want the bill to pass? Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Me now?
Yes, hello.
Great. Sorry about that. That was Representative Hansen, and he is on his way. So I want you to know that he's coming. He is the prime sponsor of one of the bills. The other person who is a prime sponsor is Norma Smith, and she's a legislator from the islands. And there he is. And so you'll have an opportunity to hear from the expert on this issue. He's been working on it for a number of years and did a wonderful job at the hearing last week. So Representative Drew Hansen.
Hi.
Hello there.
Hello.
How are you guys?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm Drew Hansen. I'm from Kitsap County. I've been working. What is this? I'm sorry. Ah! Oh, now I can hear you. Can you guys say something loud like hello?
Hello.
That worked awesome. Thank you. So I'm Drew Hansen. I sponsored a bill to protect net neutrality. I'm sorry, I don't mean to tell you something you already know. Can you raise your hand if you already know what net neutrality is? Oh, well, you guys are okay. You're about 2/3, 1/3. So here's what's happening. At the federal level, we have these rules that say an internet service provider can't block lawful content. It can't slow it down. It can't speed it up. It can't create fast lanes or slow lanes, just depending on what corporate relationship they have. So like, for example, they can't make Netflix go really fast and Hulu go really slow because Netflix paid them a bunch of money. So that's what net neutrality is. So the FCC rolled back those protections at the federal level in December, and my bill maintains them at the state level. So that's what we do. I mean, we heard it last week, had a good hearing. Hopefully we'll pass it out of committee this week. That's it.
In a nutshell, there you go. So
Awesome, thank you. So we read the summary of the bill or the text of the bill, but we didn't have a chance to watch the hearing. Could you say any more detail about the hearing? Were there any significant roadblocks put up in your way, or even like some detail about maybe the nitty gritty of the process might be helpful too. Like what happened?
I am, because I didn't watch the hearing either. What people told me after the hearing is lobbyists for the telecom companies were totally condescending and claimed that the members of the committee, or didn't claim, but implied very strongly that the members of the committee were stupid. So, you know, you ever go into lobbying, don't call people stupid who are going to control the fate of a bill you care about. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have any other than the fact that the lobbyists are not enthusiastic about the bill. I mean, we've made a bunch of changes to make them less hostile at their request. And so hopefully,
We were talking just as you came in about who are those folks that would oppose something that seems so reasonable?
well, the telecommunications and cable companies that make lots of money by providing internet. So they, I believe, they lobbied pretty hard at the federal level to roll those protections back. And
I'm sorry to interrupt. So Donna, we can hear you pretty clearly, but Senator, you're coming in and out a little bit. We can hear you sometimes.
I have, hello, how is this?
Good, very good.
Okay, I'll just yell. So the people who oppose the bill are the telecommunications and cable companies who stand to make a lot of money by deciding what content you get at what speed. I mean, I think it's not more complicated than that. Any other great questions?
Would you? I was going to ask. Can we throw it open to questions from students now? Is that okay?
Yeah. This water content.
What do you want to find out about the bill itself, or the process here? So the questions that you've already generated.
Let me share with you a little bit. I was at the hearing and heard the testimony that was given by both sides. And I will tell you that there was this sense that the folks who were opposed to the legislation thought that maybe people didn't really understand what was going on. And so that whole idea of, you know, sort of treating policymakers as folks who are incapable of understanding what's going on was pretty condescending. And the nice thing that I want to share with you is that this legislation is a bipartisan effort, that there's work being done with both Democrats and Republicans involved in creating something that will protect net neutrality in our state. Good thing, because it promises down the future that we'll actually end up with something that the governor can sign. And that's important to have on an issue that's like this.
No, that's right. We do have, at this point, bipartisan support. And I think that's good. I mean, especially Republicans from more rural areas don't have a lot of choice in broadband providers. They get like their broadband provider should be able to take.
I'm so sorry. We couldn't hear you, Senator.
That's okay. Hold on. We're going to get tech support here.
Okay. I can hear you now. That was good. Whatever.
Dude, man.
That's
I don't know what to do. Well, why don't you all ask some smart question? We'll see if we can fix my mic between now and then.
What's that? The first question.
I got a question.
Yeah, come on up. Oh, you got some good questions.
Hello, I'm Avi. My question for you guys is, what are the steps you have to take when it comes to trying to pass any bill, especially this one?
Great. Give me a second to monkey with my mic, all right? We'll see if this gets fixed.
All right.
I guess you can hear me, though, right?
Yes, now we can.
All right, praise God. Let's go from here. We'll see if we can make this louder, but I'll continue just yelling. So the first step is you got to have an idea that you think is worth doing. Second step, ideally, you try to find some partners, ideally partners from the other party, because that makes things, I mean, it makes it more interesting and more fun, and you get a better product that way. You work with your staff to kind of put whatever your great idea is into technical bill language that can actually become a law. And then you start running through the hearing process. You have hearings like we just did last week, eventually a floor vote in the House, the chamber or whatever chamber originated the bill. And then you go to the other chamber and the process starts all over again. And hopefully you get to the governor's nose.
Thank you.
Question?
Come on up.
Yeah, come on,
I know
y'all.
you have good questions. Hi.
Hey, on processes like those, how long do they normally take?
On the process itself?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Give me that. Because my earpiece is now all funky, so I can't hear you. Sorry. Tell me what that question.
Actually, how long does it?
Oh, good question. So it usually takes a while. It'll take, so, the drafting process can take anywhere from days to months of just coming up with the bill. And then the hearing committee floor process, that's weeks kind of per chamber. That's 2 to 4 weeks in each chamber. So kind of all in, start to finish, like 3 months is a reasonable estimate of the process. Yeah, good question. Really good question.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I can hear now.
Other questions?
Yeah, we got one coming.
All right. Hello. My question is, since this is like an entire nationwide issue right now, how do you plan to like keep the net neutrality in Washington State? Like, is there going to be different internet servers like everywhere, like across the country and everything?
That's a great question. That's a great question. That probably gets to the number one concern that people raise about the bill, which is how can you regulate the internet from Washington State, and can the FCC preempt you? Can they issue regulations that have preemptive effect, which is what they said they can do. So let's take that in 2 ways. The first way is saying, in Washington State, we do a whole bunch of stuff that regulates nationwide commerce just for the citizens of Washington, including on the internet. So we have, there's privacy rules that we put in place in Washington. They're not the rules in Louisiana or New York or California or wherever. There's rules we have related to biometrics, data breaches that are not the rules nationwide. So we can, in fact, do standards in Washington that will be different from national standards, and companies can figure out how to comply with them. We do it all the time. The second question, which is implied in the first, is can the FCC at the federal level just say, forget it, Washington, you can't do this? They have claimed that they can do that. They say they have the power to do that. It's not clear to me that they actually have the power to do that. Just because you say you can do something doesn't make it happen, obviously. And they're taking, I think they are way out beyond boundaries of the power that the Constitution actually are working under give them when they say, hey, we can't, when the FCC says we can't regulate conduct on the internet, but oh, ho, ho, as if by magic, we have so much power that you states can't regulate conduct on the internet either. I don't know how that works. So, I think they're kind of beyond where their authority lies on that point. But that's a fabulous question. We've got to kind of the core of what the hesitation has been on the bill.
And in your work, you may have spent some time looking at some of the provisions of the U.S. Constitution. So you might recall the states' rights issue, and that's right there in the U.S. Constitution. So it could end up ultimately in some kind of a legal battle down the road. That remains to be seen. Are there other questions?
Questions prepared? What do you want to find out? I'm going to ask one while you get ready, but everybody should be ready. Hi, I want to jump in. I didn't introduce myself to the senator earlier. My name is Eric Reeve. I'm a teacher.
Where are you, by the way? Where are we talking to?
Oh, like physically, where are we?
Yes.
DTAC, right, very close to the airport, so in the Highline School District.
Oh, great. Okay, good deal.
Tyee High School.
Good, thank you.
I just saw a headline, I can't remember if it was this morning or yesterday, that our neighbor to the east, Montana, the governor of Montana, just passed an executive order basically doing the same thing. And I'm wondering, hopefully, legislation would be preferable, right? Because it's not so easy to get rid of legislation. But if this effort fails, do you think Governor Inslee would be open to just taking executive action? or not? And
No, I'm positive he would be, because we had a press conference in December where he said he was going to take executive action. And I thought he did take a bunch of executive action. Apparently he didn't do it. Like, I mean, it's weird. Like, what I remember from this press conference was the governor saying he would do exactly what the Montana governor just did. And so I thought he had done this already, but maybe not. But now, like, you know, we have another state doing it, and it's pretty easy to do that, right? You could say, if you're a telecom provider that either does business with the state or is chartered or licensed by the state, I mean, here are the rules of engagement that you have to operate under. So yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely an option. You know, if the governor has not done this already, I'm sure he is actively looking at this and probably will do it soon.
I'm going to throw a question in, if you don't mind. One of the things that we had talked about was the fact that there are two bills, and Representative Norma Smith has a bill that's somewhat similar, but there are differences, and maybe you could explain what the differences are between those two pieces.
Yeah, there aren't any differences anymore, because Representative Smith and Representative Smith is a Republican. She's from Whidbey Island. I'm a Democrat from Kitsap County. We've worked pretty closely together on a bunch of issues. We had a big environmental bill we did together a few years ago. We co-chaired the governor's prayer breakfast at one point. And we've been working very closely to come up with a unified single net neutrality bill that could become law. And actually just a few hours ago, we asked our staff to make the two bills exactly identical. So whatever passes, you know, it's going to be something that has wide bipartisan support.
One of the things that was under debate was, what are the repercussions if any of these businesses don't follow the net neutrality rules in this bill?
So the enforcement mechanism is, it's a violation of the Consumer Protection Act, so the Attorney General can file a lawsuit. So that's a pretty sequential to wave around. And, you know, I mean, look, the businesses have been complying with the net neutrality rules at the federal level already. It shouldn't be all that hard for them to continue doing so at the state level. So we feel pretty comfortable that we'll in fact be able to comply with the rules. Why don't we do one more question, and I got to run to my next thing if you don't mind.
okay, thank you. We have one student coming over right now.
Super.
Hello.
How you doing?
My name is Mitchell, and how do you think, since in Washington, the Democrats control most of the House, so how do you think, will you think all the Democrats will support the bill, or like, will some oppose it, or?
No, they all better support it. You know, no, I think we're going to get all the Democrats. I think we're going to get a lot of the Republicans, because, you know, look, no matter what your party is, people basically get that you don't want to put the giant cable companies in charge of deciding what content that's lawful that you see on the internet, how fast it goes, and how much you pay for it. Like, they should be content neutral. They can sell you fast service or slow service, but they shouldn't be able to kind of pick and choose among that. I mean, that's up to you, the consumer. And Republicans get that, Democrats get that. I mean, everyone kind of gets that one. Good luck. Okay, so y'all, I got to go back to my next thing. Thank you very much, Tyee High School. It is great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Coming over. What'd you think?
I don't think we looked into this specifically. Do you know off the top of your head how many co-sponsors are Republicans and how many are Democrats? Or
I do not know.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I didn't bring the bill with me today. They have, I don't believe that they've moved it yet out of committee.
Okay.
So, but they have a deadline of February 2nd to move it out. So I am positive that that bill is coming out. And it was really evident during the course of the hearing that the members on both sides were very interested in seeing legislation pass.
Great. I think what might be useful is, if possible, or if you're willing, a simple breakdown of the process, because I can't remember if I told you, we are just now finishing up unit about elections, and so students haven't had a chance yet to really delve into the process, the legislative process yet. Could you simply just kind of explain, okay, so it starts in committee, goes
Sure.
here, yeah.
Absolutely. When the legislative session starts, every year they set a calendar, and that calendar gives them specific deadlines under which the legislation needs to move. And that's really it's really what keeps the legislative process moving. So as Representative Hansen explained, you can have an idea as a legislator or as a lobbyist, and you bring it to a legislator and you have the bill drawn up, and then it gets introduced into a first reading in either the House or the Senate, and then that gets referred to a committee. And to make that bill move, the committee chair has to agree that a public hearing will be held. At that time, the public is given an announcement, and that comes through the legislative website, and you can get all of that information right off of there. And that public hearing is held. They invite the public to come in and give their opinion about the bill. They're either pro, they're con, or other, and they can recommend amendments to the committee. They can bring in people who will bring letters, or they will sign in pro or con on the legislation, and they have that public hearing. And then the process behind the scenes after the public hearing is, do the committee members want to make any amendments? Do they want the bill to move forward? And again, the power in that instance falls within the committee chair. So the committee chair decides whether or not the bill will be what's called exec. And that means that the committee has to take executive action on the bill and send it off to the next step in the process. And that happens in the committee. And that first deadline that I just mentioned a bit ago is February 2nd. So to keep the bills moving, they have to get out of committee by February 2nd. Now, when the committee execs the bill, they can send it to the Rules Committee, or if there's some fiscal implication in the bill, they'll send it to the Ways and Means or to the Appropriations Committee. At that point, the Appropriations Committee goes through the same steps that the original Policy Committee went through. They'll have a public hearing, they'll have executive action, and then they'll send it to the Rules Committee. Once a bill gets into the Rules Committee, the Rules Committee decides what does and doesn't get a floor vote. And when I say floor, I'm speaking specifically of the Senate chambers and the House chambers, and they will vote collectively, all of the members in the Senate, all of the members in the House, depending on which side the bill came from. The Rules Committee then puts it on the calendar. The leadership in that particular body, and this year it's the Democrats in both the House and the Senate, will decide when and where on the calendar it will fall. And then the bill comes up for a vote on the floor. Again, a debate takes place. People provide their opinions about the bill. Amendments can be offered even at that point, and then they take a vote. If that body, let's say the bill originated in the Senate, once it passes the Senate, it then goes over to the House, and it starts the process all over again with a whole new set of deadlines and a whole new group of people taking a look at it. Again, public testimony from the public, amendments, and all of those types of things occur. If a bill passes both the House and the Senate in identical form, it goes directly to the governor's desk. Within the session, when the regular session is occurring, he has 5 days to sign it. If it's outside a session, he has 20. And those are constitutional mandates for the time period he has to consider those bills. If the bills are different, let's say the net neutrality bill in the House comes out one way, but the Senate hears it and passes it, and they put amendments on it that makes that bill different than the House bill that came over, they have a conference committee. Members from the Senate, members from the House are appointed. They get together, they talk about the amendments, they work out a compromise, and then the bill goes back to the respective bodies and they vote on it all over again. Once the bill is passed that second time, then it goes to the governor because it's a bill that both bodies agree to. The governor can choose to sign it, the governor can choose to veto it. If it's vetoed, the bill is dead. If the governor vetoes it and legislators have enough votes, it takes a 2/3 vote out of each body to override a veto, then they can override that veto and the bill will be alive and become law. But those are options. All the steps along the way have, little blocks that can come up. And as a lobbyist, I just try to keep an eye on what's happening. Is there an amendment that's going to blow everything up? Is there an amendment that's going to make more people vote for it? And try to follow that so that if anything comes up that really needs some direct attention and guidance, that we're right there and we're able to put our word in and make sure that everything's fine along the way. So many opportunities for things to blow up though. But it's a process. And I've worked on bills that somebody had a great idea in December and they've been able to pass the bill in March. And I've worked on bills where something started in 1980 and it didn't pass until 2010. So just to give you an idea, it just, anything can go wrong in that process.
Awesome. Thank you for that. With our remaining few minutes, I'm wondering should we see if there's more questions, or do you think that there's a opportune time in the near future for students to get their voice heard, not in person in Olympia, because that wouldn't happen for a while, but should we be writing letters or anything like that? What do you think would be the best way to try to influence this bill?
I think that once the bill comes out of committee, I would recommend that letters go to your local legislators encouraging them to support it. I think that's really important, that they know that you care about this and that they have an opportunity to hear from you. You heard today from Representative Hansen that there's strong support for this in the legislature, but it doesn't mean that those companies who have a lot of resources aren't going to engage in an effort to try to stop it. So anything that we can do as the public to put in to let legislators know that it's supported in our communities is a very good thing. And I think that would be the time to weigh in. And you can weigh in by handwritten letters, by email, you can make a phone call to the hotline. There are all kinds of ways to do that. And I highly recommend that happens as soon as it comes out of committee. Questions, please.
Just say it loud.
When does it come out in committees?
I expect it to come out any day now because it has to be out by that February 2nd deadline. And as you can imagine, people are running around like crazy here because there's all of these bills that have to get out within the next 10 days. But I do expect it to come out. Like I said, it's got a lot of attention and it's very bipartisan at this point. And so I expect it to come out any day. And I will certainly let you all know when that happens.
Thank you. Other questions before we go?
Thank you.
Is there anything else from your end that we should be thinking about?
I'm excited that you're coming.
Yeah, I haven't actually, I told them that might happen, but I haven't even told them that it's official yet. But yeah, I think it'll be great.
Good, I do too.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Let's thank her, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.